Brad Norton from South Melbourne FC. Welcome to A-League Access.
Thanks for having me.
So you've played for a few NSL clubs, which is great, and you also played a little bit with A-League club Adelaide United, but you found your football home at South Melbourne FC. So tell us a bit about playing at one of the biggest clubs in Victoria with a huge history and a huge reputation.
Yeah, look, it's been a long time now. I've been at the club for 10 years, so I just feel part of the furniture. It's been that long, but as you mentioned, I had a bit of a background playing around in the NPL, and got lucky to get a little stint in Adelaide United as well, which was really nice and eye-opening, I guess, as a young kid. But since coming back to Melbourne, been at South Melbourne the whole time, and that's something that I grew up watching South Melbourne, and you hear the history and you see the big games that they played in. I think now's a perfect time to be talking about the Manchester United game and all the great opportunities that some of these players have had. So to be able to, now be involved in that history is really exciting. And, it's been 10 years, like I mentioned, and I'm loving every minute of it.
So Brad, you've really been what we could call a resilient player. I think since you are with South Melbourne, every season you had 20 and more matches, apart from last year when the season was interrupted. So what makes the club actually so special?
Yeah, you're right. It's been every year that I've played in, I try and just get my body right to keep playing in every game. But look, in terms of the club, I guess that rich history, like I mentioned, knowing that you turn up out the front of the stadium and there's the big South Melbourne sign right there. You can see the history in the club when you walk through that social club, and you see the trophies that they've won and the ex-players that have been there. And even to this day, I think you still hear some players like Ange and Paul Trimboli and these guys that have come through the club. And we'll be playing against Melbourne City, and their coach Paddy Kisnorbo played at the club, and you hear some of these great names and the history that they've been involved in. And you're only in awe with some of them. So and what they've been able to achieve. And I guess that's probably where it all starts. And each player that comes through, like I said, when they walk through that social club, they get to see that straight off the bat. And that's something I think that South Melbourne's really proud of, their history. And since playing there for 10 years, been involved in some great moments at the club and some championship winning, some big FFA Cup games. It's been a great time, and I'm sure and hoping that the club has many more successes, leading into, let's hope, this second division and all the rest of it that come forward. So, yeah.
Actually, Brad, perfect segue. Speaking of the second division, it's a step closer. And of course, one of the clubs eager to participate is South Melbourne, as we know, the biggest club in Australia outside the A-League. What's the vibe like at the club, and what will the National Second Division do for the sport in Australia, generally speaking?
Yeah, look, I think, like what you said, it's such a big thing in soccer in Australia, and ever since that 2006 World Cup that we made, we're starting to make waves with football as we call it in Australia. And I think the A-League's been a great advocate for the sport, and you start to see some of these big names come back. I played as a junior with Matt Leckie, and to have Matt Leckie coming back to the A-League is such a big achievement. So, we want to start seeing more of these players come through the system, and it's probably something that we've lost a little bit in the near future, or near past, sorry, I should say. When you look at players like your Harry Kewells, your Mark Vidukas and all that came through that NSL, went overseas and, really made big names out of themselves. We probably missed that a little bit to some extent. So, having a second division, something where players strive, if they don't make the A-League, there's still something there. And, some of these players that aren't making the A-League, and we've got them at South Melbourne, are top talent, a really, really top talent. And it's not just South, it's other clubs as well. So to have, you don't make one of the 10 teams in the A-League, that's okay. There's that second division to sort of push you through. And, that next opportunity, I guess, it would be really, really strong for the country. And you start to see, I think, a lot more emerging talent coming through, which is really important for us to be able to keep up, I guess, with the national stage.
So how disappointed are you now that Matthew Leckie is not there on Friday?
I was kind of looking forward to swapping shirts with him at the end of the game.
Yes.
Yeah, look, Leckie and I we played together in under 13s, state teams, Brimbank together. We grew up playing there a couple of years together. So we've had some great memories together. And then at Adelaide United, like I said, I had that short stint with him. And got to spend a lot of time together there as well. So, yeah, it's spewing a little bit that I miss him, but I'm sure I'll give him a call or we'll speak about it at some stage. And maybe you never know, in the future we might get to play against each other again. But look, like I said, he's a great talent and now moved on to be the captain of the Socceroos, which is an amazing achievement, and he's done so well. And that's where he's been able to work his way through that A-League, and we want to see more players coming through, similar to his story, I guess.
Before we talk further about the match on Friday, just coming back to what you mentioned already regarding the past in A-League, that was increased up to 12 teams recently. And South Melbourne was always on the edge, to get a spot in the A-League. And now Western United and MacArthur FC are the new clubs. How big was the disappointment in the club at that time?
Yeah, I remember, we had that social media and people, Channel 10 and Channel 9 and that coming to view our training sessions. So there was that big hype around, I guess, the club again. And that just showed, how big the club it is. I think it was the most stable club that was actually going for an A-League licence at the time. It was had that history behind it. It's already been involved in the Australian football for such a long time. So, look, to get to the stage where they got to, you can look at that and say that was an achievement in itself. Final 6 or 7 clubs to make, before they made that decision it was an achievement. I think South and the players felt that there was that backing there. We've got the stadium, got the supporter base, the history there, and that would have been a great thing to push back into the A-League. But you know what? They've gone with 2 good teams, and I'm sure the whole point, like I said, is to bring in another division, and other clubs like South Melbourne, your Melbourne Knights, your Marconis, and all these clubs that have come through. Hopefully, they'll be able to get their opportunity and slowly start to make their name again in Australian football.
Brad, the last 2 NPL seasons have been interrupted by COVID-19. How has this impacted on the players?
It's been tough. It's definitely been tough just to keep a group together. I mean, as it is, football, in the NPL is semi-professional. So you're only seeing each other 3 or so times a week, and then the game on the weekend. So to then cut everything, I guess, and you rely on your social media, you rely on these types of platforms to be able to keep in contact with each other. It does make it difficult. But look, we're sort of lucky, I guess, especially this most recent lockdown. We were able to get that exemption to train and to get ready for this match that's coming up. So that's been a positive. But I guess it sort of reaches beyond football, I think, a little bit. The fact that, people not only losing out on football, but they're also losing out on their work, schooling, all the rest of it. And, we have players that miss everything. So I guess it's just trying to support as much as you can. And South's a great club where everyone gets involved and everyone's together. There's constant chats like this, and that's really positive. And I think it just takes people's mind away from the negativity that's happening around them. But yeah, I'm saying it hasn't affected people. And now we just hope at the stage we're at, we get some normality back into our lives, not just in football, but in general.
Yeah,
did you get any support from...
Sorry, Santana, you go ahead, sorry. Yep.
Sorry, I was just going to say, was there any support from Football Victoria or anyone else to support the players, especially those who really rely on being at the club for their, social and, interactions? Was there anything offered to help them, those who were struggling?
Look, I guess in terms of that, it was probably more set on by the clubs to support the players to some extent more than the federation itself. I know the clubs and the federation were working together as to when we could get, training sessions back, or there was that time, I think, in the middle of 2020 when everything opened up for that short 6-week period. And, the federation was great and we were able to get all the clubs back and training and so on. And then, unfortunately, before we were about to play the first game back, we had to lock ourselves down again. So, the clubs and the federation definitely tried to work together. But in terms of the players themselves, that was more set upon by the clubs and leaders in each team, I guess, to make sure that the group's sticking together and the coaching staff to get involved. And, we've been doing a lot of Zoom sessions, not just to catch up, but also, those little workouts that you can do, strength and conditioning coach on one side screaming at you through a camera screen and trying to do your sit-ups and all the rest of it. So, it's definitely different times and interesting times. But like I said, I'm glad to see the back of that, and let's hope we stay like that.
Yeah, Brad, as a follower of the NPL season, the frustrating thing was for South Melbourne, you guys got off to a flying start. You were in the top 5 or 6 placements. And then, of course, COVID struck. So is it hard to pick yourself up again after doing so well, and then you're having a break, an enforced break because of COVID lockdowns, trying to get yourself motivated and focused on football?
Yeah, definitely. It's like I said, I think not only were you missing out on your football, but people were also having the struggles outside of that. And that also plays on your minds. Then you're coming back to training, and then, are we going to even get a game involved here, or is it just going to be training, and are we going to be locked down again? Definitely plays on the player's mind. And I guess, in terms of us specifically, not so much speaking on the behalf of the other clubs, but in terms of us, we had injuries going through it. And sometimes you think, maybe it's a great thing. We get to close down for 2 weeks. Boys from injury will come back, but almost had the negative effect of coming back from that 2 or 3 weeks off and getting more injuries because you've stopped for 3 weeks. It was definitely a mixed bag. And you're right, we had a great start to the season. We were top for 9 rounds, and that's, it's a better start than what we've had over the past few years. And then, there was that interrupted section. Don't want to blame that. Definitely won't be blaming it. But, it did make it a little bit difficult. And like I said, the only thing you could really do is try and catch up through these sort of platforms and stick together in it. And let's hope that works moving into this Melbourne City game now.
Good segue into that, because it's going to be
doing that a video.
Yeah. It's going to be huge Friday night. There's so much advertising about this game. I know there's a lot of supporters out there who are looking forward to it. So what's it been like at training? How are the players excited? What's the vibe there? Because I imagine it's going to be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great for, like I said, some of these young boys, and just general the players that haven't played in some of the big, the big games that maybe South have played in the past, or A-League teams, etc. It's just massive to be around the club at the moment. And as I mentioned, South have this massive history, and in recent terms probably haven't had the opportunity as much. So to know you're playing in a big game, crowds will be back. Against the champions of the A-League is there's no bigger at the moment game to play in. So for us, yes, it's been a long training regime. Like I said, we've been able to be, had that exemption to train for the past 6 or 7 weeks, which has been great. But it's all been for one game. So when you're training and you rock up the training knowing that there's no game on the weekend, you've got to keep your mind ready for that one opportunity in 6 weeks' time. And that's finally here now. And, we're starting to get some of the media guys around the club again. We're starting to get, the management around the club again. So it's exciting. And I think everyone now just wants Friday to come.
So looking at that game, we all have played soccer in the past, but if you look at Melbourne City now, their top players are away with the Socceroos. So being honest, on the one hand, you must be sad that you're not playing against them. But on the other hand, would you think, well, there's definitely a better chance, because it's clearly a loss for Melbourne City not to have them on the pitch. So there's the chance for South Melbourne, maybe?
Yeah, I'd like to think like that. Look, like you mentioned, definitely would love to have played against, Lecky and McLaren and the Food and these guys. Yeah, these guys are, made their name now in the A-League, Australian football in general, Socceroos as well. And I also know Andrew Naboot quite well from just playing against each other and so on in the past. And it would have been great to see these guys again, play against them. But at the same time, look, they won the championship last year without Lecky. They won it without McLaren, wasn't playing in that final game. So we've got no illusions. These guys are going to be good. They're not the champions of the A-League for no reason. And we're expecting, them to come out firing. I think it's the week before the A-League actually starts. So they'd be almost primed, ready to go, you'd think. So that adds to the opportunity for us. That adds to, us to be playing against some of the better players in Australia at the moment, and to see how far off, or to see if we can match that. And yes, it's sad not to have them, and I'm sure they'll be just as good without them, with some of their youngsters coming through. But either way, the game will be exciting, and by the sounds of it, the fans will be showing up in force. And there's no better time to be playing, I think, out of lockdown and everything.
Is it a full house? Is it going to be, what's the capacity for Friday night, have they said?
So originally it was, so the stadium can hold, I think it's between 10 to 11,000 roughly. Now, obviously, with the capacity limits in place at the moment with the Vic government, I think we're allowed to have about 5 to 5,500 roughly supporters. And they've been obviously doing the pre-sale tickets, which has gone, into my understanding, really, really well. So I would have no doubt that we would be very close, if not at capacity, on come Friday night, which is exciting.
Brad, if I was a Melbourne City scout, who would I be targeting from South Melbourne? Who are the danger men for the game?
I can't say my own name anymore. I think I'm getting too old now for this.
Apart from you, of course.
Talk yourself up. It's okay.
No. It's funny. When I first started at South Melbourne 10 years ago, I was the youngest player in the team. Now, 10 years later, I'm the oldest player in the team. So it's funny how within a 10-year span it changes. Look, we have some great players, like I mentioned, in our club. And we've recruited really well for the last couple of seasons. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to finish any of the last couple of seasons. So that's been frustrating, but we have our new striker Harrison Sawyer played in Malaysia, played in some big games. He's definitely one out there. Our right back Ben Gibber is probably the youngest player in our squad, and most likely probably great opportunity for him to whether start or get some minutes at some stage. So there's some great players. I've missed another 9 players because all of them deserve to be looked at, but like I said, for us, it's just the focus is just on this game. Our focus is on, what we believe in ourselves. If we didn't, there's no point playing it. So we believe that we can go there and possibly create an upset and add to that history of South Melbourne.
What would you say? I mean, apparently it is a very big game, the game of the year. What would you say from your career's perspective, the last game that had that kind of importance for you? Was it your 200th game for South Melbourne? Where do you see that in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess for myself, I was unfortunate at the same time. I missed the Sydney FC game 4 years ago. I went overseas with my wife and we ended up proposing. I proposed overseas, so I missed the biggest game in probably the recent.
It was worth it then.
Yeah. She doesn't like me reminding her, but look, in terms of where I've played in, I've been able to play, 250th now for South Melbourne, and that's massive achievement personally. But I think this game more relates to games like the Doherty Cup finals, the the NPL finals, these big games where we've been able to have big crowds, win a trophy and lift it with the supporters of the club and, the management of the club. So it's definitely up, like I said, with one of my biggest games. And now I just can't wait to get on the field. It's getting really close and I just want to be out there.
Well, Brad, that's we could talk all night with you about the upcoming game, but we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, and we wish South Melbourne all the best on Friday night. Talk yourself up. You're going to do really well.
No, thank you very much, and I appreciate you spending the time with me. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Brad. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.